I'm late. I'm late.
Hi. So how are you all today? Okay. And what did Mike write? Oh my god. Ay, ay, ay. Yeah, I want to know as well. What did you order? Oh my god. Sure. Oh. What the fuck is happening? Oh my god. Ay, ay, ay. This one. is for the Hobbit. So it more or less tells a lot of the story. Yes. Smaug is there. Can you see what else is there? Jerry? Who the hell is Jerry? Little statue? There's no statue here. That is a person. This one is a person. There's no statue in Bilbo's hand. That is a gem. And that is a jewelry. Well, that is the King's Jewel, and that is the One Ring. Yeah, I'm sure you did. That sounds nice. Enjoy. Yeah, I hope you enjoy. It's actually very common here in Europe. Yeah, I only use chicken if I make it myself. Yeah, we are going to read. Just having a little talk. Oh. Yeah. Looks like some short chapters today. Enjoy, Moik. Enjoy. Thank you. I will. I enjoy being here. I also need to redo my assembly up here because it's too close to the books. But I might try to make like a clip for it. We'll see. So please tell me if the music is too loud. Oh, nice. Yeah, I tried to exercise yesterday. It didn't go that well. Yeah. Okay. Is this better? Or was it too much? Does it still sound okay? Okay, I will. Chapter 2, Roast Mutton. Up jumped Bilbo, and putting on his dressing gown, went into the dining room. There he saw nobody. But all the signs of a large and hurried breakfast. There was a fearful mess in the room, and piles of unwashed crooks in the kitchen. Nearly every pot and pan he possessed seemed to have been used. The washing up was so dismally real that Bilbo was forced to believe the party of the night had not been part of his bad dream, as he had rather hoped. Indeed, he was really relieved after all to think that they had all gone without him and without bothering to wake him up. But with never a thank you, he thought, and yet in a way he could not help feeling just a trifle disappointed. The feeling surprised him. "Don't be a fool, Bilbo Baggins," he said to himself, "thinking of dragons and all that outlandish nonsense at your age." So he put on an apron, lit fires, boiled water, and washed up. Then he had a nice little breakfast in the kitchen before turning out the dining room. By that time, the sun was shining and the front door was open, letting in a warm spring breeze. Bilbo began to whistle loudly and to forget about the night before. In fact, he was just sitting down to a nice little second breakfast in the dining room by the open window when in walked Gandalf. It's the morning after the dwarves have been there, or the morning after the dwarves arrived, and they talked about the whole adventure and such.
You cannot do that. You'll blunt them. Ooh, do you hear that, lads? He says we'll blunt the knives.
Blunt the knives, bend the forks,
Smash the bottles and burn the corks.
the glasses and crack the plates.
Yes.
That's what Bilbo Baggins hates.
Cut them off, trim them back, leave them on the bedroom mat, pour them into the pantry floor. Splash the wine on every door, dunk across the boiling bowl, down the bottom of the thumping hole. When you're finished, if they are whole, send them down the hall to roll. That's what Bilbo Baggins hates.
He's here.
Oh no, he's here. I'm not sure if it's this one. Okay, that's gonna be another play. But it's actually very confusing because the book is a little bit different than the movie, because in the movie the Thorin Oakenshield arrive after all of them have sat down and eaten and such. In the book, he arrives with the last part of the party and actually lays down beneath a couple of dwarves. So yeah. But I get why they made that and made it like that in the movie. "My dear fellow," said he, whenever are you going to come? What about an early start? And here you are having breakfast, or whatever you call it, at 10:30. They left you the message because they could not wait. What message? Said poor Mr. Baggins in all in a fluster. Great elephants, said Gandalf. You are not at all yourself this morning. You have never dusted the mantelpiece. What's that got to do with it? I've had enough to do with washing up for 14. If you had dusted the mantelpiece, you would have found this just under the clock, said Gandalf, handing Bilbo a note, written, of course, on his own notepaper. This is what he read. Thorin and company to burglar Bilbo greeting. For your hospitality, our sincerest thanks, and for your offer of professional assistance, our grateful acceptance. Terms, cash on delivery, up to and not exceeding 1/14 of total profits, if any. All traveling expenses guaranteed in any event. Funeral expenses to be defrayed by us or your representatives. If occasions arise and the matter is not otherwise arranged for, thinking it unnecessary to disturb your esteemed repose, we have proceeded in advance to make requisite preparations, and shall await your respected person at the Green Dragon Inn, Bywater, at 11 a.m. sharp, trusting that you will be punctual. We have the honor to remain yours deeply, Thorin and Co. Hi Potita! Hi Dee! Welcome in! It's lovely to see you here. And I hydrated on tea. That leaves you just 10 minutes. You will have to run, said Gandalf. But, said Bilbo. No time for it, said the wizard. But, said Bilbo again. No time for that either. Off you go. To the end of his days, Bilbo could never remember how he found himself outside without a hat, a walking stick, or any money, or anything that he usually took when he went out, leaving his second breakfast half finished and quite unwashed up, pushing his keys into Gandalf's hands and running as fast as his furry feet could carry him down the lane, past the great mill, across the water, and then on for a mile or more. Very puffed he was when he got to Bywater just on the stroke of 11 and found he had come without a pocket handkerchief. Bravo, said Balin, who was standing at the inn door looking out for him. Just then all the others came round the corner of the road from the village. They were on ponies, and each pony was slung about with all kinds of packages, parcels, and paraphernalia. There was a very small pony, apparently for Bilbo. Up you two get, and off we go, said Thorin. I'm awfully sorry, said Bilbo, but I've come without my hat, and I've left my pocket handkerchief behind, and I haven't got any money. I didn't get your note until after 10:45 to be precise. Don't be precise, said Dwalin, and don't worry, you will have to manage without pocket handkerchiefs, and a good many other things, before you get to the journey's end. As for a hat, I got a spare hood and a cloak in my luggage. That's how they all came to start, jogging off from the inn one fine morning just before May, on laden ponies, and Bilbo wearing a dark green hood, a little weather-stained, and a dark green cloak borrowed from Dwalin. They were too large for him, and it looked rather comic. What his father Bungo would have thought of him, I daren't think. His only comfort was he couldn't be mistaken for a dwarf, as he had no beard. They had not been riding very long, when up came Gandalf, very splendid on a white horse. He had brought a lot of pocket handkerchiefs, and Bilbo's pipe and tobacco, so after that the party went along very merrily, and they told stories or sang songs as they rode forward all day, except, of course, when they stopped for meals. They didn't come quite as often as Bilbo would have liked them, but still he began to feel that adventures were not so bad after all. first they had passed through Hobbit land, a wide respectable country inhabited by decent folk with good roads, an inn or two, and now and then a dwarf or a farmer ambling by on business. Then they came to the lands where people spoke strangely and sang songs Bilbo had never heard before. Now they had gone on far into the lone lands, where there were no people left, no inns, and the roads grew steadily worse. Not far ahead were dreary hills rising higher and higher, dark with trees. On some of them were old castles with an evil look, as if they had been built by wicked people. Everything seemed gloomy, for the weather that day had taken a nasty turn. Mostly had been as good as May can be, even in merry tales, but now it was cold and wet. In the lowlands they had been obliged to camp when they could, but at least it had been dry. Yeah, that's hard to like compare. A beardless dwarf or a fat gnome. Interesting. To think it will soon be June, grumbled Bilbo. Hello. As he splashed along behind the others in a very muddy track. It was after tea time, it was pouring with rain, and had been all day. His hood was dripping into his eyes, his cloak was full of water, the pony was tired and stumbled on stones, the others were too grumpy to talk, and I'm sure the rain has gotten into the dry clothes, and into the food bags, thought Bilbo. Bother burgling and everything to do with it. I wish I was at home in my nice hole by the fire, with the kettle just beginning to sing. It was not the last time that he wished that. Still the dwarves jogged on, never turning round or taking any notice of the hobbit. Somewhere behind the grey clouds, the sun must have gone down, for it began to get dark as they got up, and willows along its banks bent and sighed. Fortunately the road went over an ancient stone bridge, but the river, swollen with the rains, came rushing down from the hills and mountains in the north. It was nearly night when they had crossed over. The wind broke up the grey clouds, and a wandering moon appeared above the hills between the flying rags. Then they stopped, and Thorin muttered something about supper. And where shall we get a dry patch to sleep on? Not until then did they notice that Gandalf was missing. So far he had come all the way with them, never saying if he was in the adventure or merely keeping them company for a while. He had eaten most, talked most, and laughed most, but now he simply was not there at all. Oh. Yeah. Thank you, Earthling. Oh, I actually had a massage Thursday this week, and it loosened up a lot. It was not like those like, oh, this is nice massages. It was actually a massage to actually loosen up the muscles and loosen up everything in my upper back, because apparently my upper back is very stiff. No, it wasn't. It was actually a person which also have a doctorate in massaging. Yeah, so he's actually a doctor, but he does massages. So he basically know where to hit on everything. Also, by the way, guys, if you haven't followed me on YouTube or checked out my merch store, I would very much appreciate it if you did that. Yeah, but it's not very common for a person who does massages to have a doctorate. I have no clue what it is. I can't even remember what it's called in English. Medically certified massage therapist. That's what he is. So he has basically have had a lot of studying of the anatomy. Oh yeah. I'm not that much up for that, mostly because my upper back is very tense. And it's not the upper muscles. It's it's like the middle and bottom layer of muscles in my upper back. So it's kinda eh. But like my lower back I have no issues with at all. So yeah. Just when a wizard would have been most useful too, groaned Dory and Nori, who shared the Hobbit's views about regular meals plenty and often. They decided in the end that they would have to camp where they were. They moved to a clump of trees, and though it was drier under them, the wind shook the rain off the leaves, and the drip drip was most annoying. Also, the mischief seemed to have gotten into the fire. Dwarves can make a fire almost anywhere out of almost nothing, wind or no wind, but they could not do it that night, not even Oin and Gloin, who were especially good at it. Then one of the ponies took fright at nothing and bolted. He got into the river before they could catch him, and before they could get him out again, Feely and Keely were nearly drowned, and all the baggage that he carried was washed off him. Of course it was mostly food, and there was mighty little left for supper and less for breakfast. There they all sat glum and wet and muttering, while Oin and Gloin went on trying to light the fire and quarreling about it. Bilbo was sadly reflecting that adventures are not all pony rides in May sunshine, when Balin, who was always their lookout man, said, "There's a light over there." There was a hill some way off with trees on it, pretty thick in parts. Out of the dark mass of trees, they could now see a light shining, a reddish comfortable looking light, as it might be a fire or torches twinkling. When they had looked at it for some while, they fell to arguing. Some said no, and some said yes. Some said they could but go and see, and anything was better than little supper, less breakfast, and wet clothes all the night. Others said these parts are none too well known and are too near the mountains. Travelers seldom come this way now. The old maps are no use. Things have changed for the worse, and the road is unguarded. They have seldom even heard of the king around here, and the less inquisitive you are as you go along, the less trouble you are likely to find. Some said, "After all, there are 14 of us." Others said, "Where has Gandalf got to?" This remark was repeated by everybody. Then the rain began to pour down worse than ever, and Oin and Gloin began to fight. That settled it. "After all, we have got a burglar with us," they said, and so they made off, leading the ponies with all due and proper caution in the direction of the light. They came to the hill and were soon in the wood. Up the hill they went, but there was no proper path to be seen, such as might lead to a house or a farm. And do what they could, they made a deal of rustling and crackling and creaking, and a good deal of grumbling and drudging, as they went through the trees in the pitch dark. Suddenly the red light shone out very bright through the tree trunks not far ahead. "Now it's the burglar's turn," they said, meaning Bilbo. "You must go on and find out all about that light, and what it's for. And if all is perfectly safe and canny," said Thorin to the Hobbit, "now scuttle off and come back quick if all is well. If not, come back if you can. If you can't, hoot twice like a barn owl and once like a screech owl, and we will do what we can." Off Bilbo had to go, before he could explain that he could not hoot even once like any kind of owl, any more than fly like a bat. But at any rate, hobbits can move quietly in woods, absolutely quietly. They take pride in it, and Bilbo had sniffed more than once at what he called all this dwarvish racket. as they went along. Though I don't suppose you or I would have noticed anything at all on a windy night, not if the whole cavalcade had passed 2 feet off. As for Bilbo walking primly towards the red light, I don't suppose even a weasel would have stirred a whisker at it. So naturally he got right up to the fire, for fire it was, without disturbing anyone. And this is what he saw. 3 very large persons sitting round a very large fire of beech logs. They were toasting mutton on long spits of wood and licking the gravy off their fingers. There was a fine toothsome smell, and there was a barrel of good drink at hand, and they were drinking out of jugs. But they were trolls. Obviously trolls. Even Bilbo, in spite of his sheltered life, could see that. From the great heavy faces of them, and their size, and the shape of their legs, not to mention their language, which was not drawing room fashion at all. At all. Mutton yesterday, mutton today, and blimey if it don't look like mutton again tomorrow, said one of the trolls. Never a blinking bit of man-flesh have we had for long enough, said a second. What's the ill William was a thinking of to bring us into these parts at all beats me. And the drink running short, what's more, he said, jogging the elbow of William, who was taking a pull at his jog. William choked. Shut your mouth, he said as soon as he could. You can't expect folk to stop here forever just to be it by you and Bird. You've ate a village and a half between you since we come down from the mountains. How much more do you want? And time's been up our way when you have said, thank you, Bill, for a nice bit of fat Welling mutton like what this is. He took a big bite of a sheep's leg he was roasting and wiped his lips on his sleeve. Yes, I am afraid trolls do behave like that, even those with only one head each. After hearing all this, Bilbo ought to have done something at once. Either he should have gone back quietly and warned his friends that there were 3 fair-sized trolls at hand in a nasty mood, quite likely to try roasted dwarf or even pony for a change. Or else he should have done a bit of good quick burgling. A really first-class and legendary burglar would at this point have picked the troll's pockets. It is nearly always worthwhile, if you can manage it. Pinch the very mutton off the spits, purloined the beer, and walked off without their noticing him. Others more practical but less professional pride would perhaps have stuck a dagger into each of them before they observed it. Then the night could have been spent cheerily. Bilbo knew it. He had read of a good many things he had never seen or done. He was very much alarmed, as well as disgusted. He wished himself 100 miles away, and yet somehow he could not go straight back to Thorin and company empty-handed. So he stood and hesitated in the shadows. Of the various burglarious proceedings he had heard of picking the trolls' pockets seemed the least difficult. So at last he crept behind a
Good
tree.
lord, it's a raid. Bunnies, take your posts.
Hi Gaming Crow, hi, welcome in. I'm just gonna read this part, Let's just finish this part. Seemed the least difficult, so at least he crept behind a tree just behind William. Thank you. Oh. How was your string crow? I hope it was nice. And also, what did you do today? And also, let's see if I can do things. There we go. Yay! I could do things. So, to everyone who came in from Crow's Dream, hello, I'm Demi or Book Bun or Bun Bun. I read for people once a week. At the moment, we are reading The Hobbit. And we have also read The Lord of the Rings from start to finish. So I hope you will enjoy your time here. And you're also welcome to share links of your socials or of what you did or something like that. Okay. Bert and Tom went off to the barrel. William was having another drink. Then Bilbo plucked up courage and put his little hand in William's enormous pocket. There was a purse in it, as big as a bag to Bilbo. Ha! He thought, warming to his New York as he lifted it out carefully. This is a beginning. It was. Trolls' purses are the mischief, and this was no exception. Here are you, it squeaked, as it left the pocket, and William turned round at once and grabbed Bilbo by the neck, before he could duck behind the tree. Blimey, Bert, look what I caught, said William. What is it? Said the other coming up. Lummy, if I knows, what are you? Bilbo Baggins, but Hobbit. Oh, nice, said poor Bilbo, shaking all over and wondering how to make owl noises before they've throttled him. A burrow Hobbit, said they, a bit startled. Trolls are slow in the uptake and mighty suspicious of anything new to them. What a burrow Hobbit got to do with my pocket, anyway, said William. And can ya cook him, said Tom. Ya can try, said Bert, picking up a skewer. He wouldn't make above a mouthful, said William, who had already had a fine supper, not when he was skinned and boned. Perhaps there are more like him around about, and we might make a pie, said Bert. Here you, are there any more of your sort sneaking in these here woods, you nasty little rabbit? Hey! Said he, looking at the Hobbit's furry feet. And he picked him up by the toes and shook him. Guess a lot, said Bilbo, before he remembered not to give his friends away. No, not at all. No, not one, he said immediately afterwards. What do you mean, said Bert, holding him right way up, by the hair this time. What I say, said Bilbo, gasping. And please don't cook me, kind sirs. I'm a good cook myself, and cook better than I cook, if you see what I mean. I'll cook beautifully for you, a perfectly beautiful breakfast for you. If only you won't have me for supper. Poor little blighter, said William. He had already had as much supper as he could hold. Also he had had lots of beer. Poor little blighter, let him go. Not till he says what he meant by lots and none at all, said Bert. I don't want to have me throats cut in my sleep. Hi Stina, welcome in. Oh, nice. Hold his toes in the fire till he talks. I won't have it, said William. I caught him anyway. Yeah, I am. I managed to set up streaming on YouTube. But it seems like a lot of people on YouTube do not want to watch me. You're a fat fool, William, said Bert. As I've said afore this evening, and you are allowed. And I won't take that from you, Bill Huggins, said Bert, and put his fist in William's eye. Yeah, but it's fine. Yeah, I know. Then there was a gorgeous row. Bilbo had just enough wits left when Bert dropped him on the ground to scramble out of the way of their feet before they were fighting like dogs and calling one another all sorts of perfectly true and applicable names in very loud voices. Soon they were locked in one another's arms and rolling nearly into the fire, kicking and thumbing, while Tom whacked at them both with a branch to bring them to their senses. And that of course only made them madder than ever. That would have been the time for Bilbo to have left, but his poor little feet had been very squashed in Bert's big paw, and he had no breath in his body, and his head was going round, so there he lay for a while panting, just outside the circle of firelight. Right in the middle of the fight up came Balin. The dwarves had heard noises from a distance, and after waiting for some time for Bilbo to come back, or to hoot like an owl, they started off one by one to creep towards the light as quietly as they could. No sooner did Tom see Balin come into the light than he gave an awful howl. Trolls simply detest the very sight of dwarves uncooked. Bert and Bill stopped fighting immediately, and I sacked Tom quick, they said. Before Balin, who was wondering where in all this commotion Bilbo was, knew what was happening, a sack was over his head, and he was down. There's more to come yet, said Tom, and I'm mighty mistook. Lots and none of all it is, said he. No burrow hobbits, but lots of these here dwarves. That's about the shape of it. I reckon you're right, said Bert, and we'd best get out of the light. Okay, so there will come a little break here in about 30 seconds. So we're gonna take a break and then I'll be back when the break is over. So use it to get something to drink or some food or just to stretch a little bit, because that's what I'm gonna do. See you when the ad break is over. So we are back. Back again. And so they did, with sacks in their hands that they used for carrying off mutton and other plunder. They waited in the shadows as each dwarf came up and looked at the fire and the spilled jugs and the gnawed mutton. In surprise, pop, went the nasty smelly sack over his head, and he was down. Soon Dwalin lay by Balin and Fili and Kili together, and Dori and Nori and Ori all in a heap, and Oin and Gloin and Biffer and Bofer and Bumper piled uncomfortably neath the fire. "That'll teach 'em," said Tom, for Biffer and Bumper had given a lot of trouble and fought like mad, as dwarves will when cornered. Thorin came last, and he was not caught unawares. He came expecting mischief, and didn't need to see his friend's legs sticking out of sacks to tell him that things were not at all well. He stood outside in the shadows some way off and said, "What's all the trouble? Who has been knocking my people out?" "It's trolls," said Bilbo from behind a tree. They had forgotten all about him. "They are hiding in the bushes with sacks," said he. "Oh, are they?" said Thorin, and he jumped forward to the fire before they could leap on him. He caught up a big branch, all on fire at one end, and Bert got all that end in his eye before he could step aside. That put him out of the battle for a bit. Bilbo did his best. He caught hold of Tom's leg as well as he could. It was thick as a young tree trunk, but he was sent spinning up into the top of some bushes when Tom kicked the spark up in Thorin's face. Tom got the branch in his teeth for that and lost one of the front ones. It made him howl, I can tell you. But just at that moment, William came up behind and popped the sack right over Thorin's head and down to his toes, and so the fight ended. A nice pickle they were all in now, all neatly tied up in sacks, with 3 angry trolls and 2 with burns and bashes to remember, sitting by them, arguing whether they should roast them slowly, or mince them fine and boil them, or just sit on them one by one and squash them into jelly. And Bilbo up in a bush, with his clothes and his skin torn, not daring to move for fear they should hear him. It was just then that Gandalf came back, but no one saw him. The trolls had just decided to roast the dwarves now and eat them later. That was Bert's idea, and after a lot of argument, they had all agreed to it. "No good roasting him now. It'll take all night," said a voice. Bert thought it was William's. "Don't start the argument all over again, Bill," he said, "or it will take all night." "Who's arguing?" said William, who thought it was Bert that had spoken. "You are," said Bert. "You are a liar," said William, and so the argument began all over again. In the end, they decided to mince them fine and boil them, so they got a great black pot, and they took out the knives. "No good boiling them. We ain't got no water, and it's a long way to the well and all," said a voice. Bert and William thought it was Tom's. "Shut up," said they, "or we'll never have done. And you can fetch the water yourself, if you say any more." "Shut up yourself," said Tom, who thought it was William's voice. "Who's arguing but you, I'd like to know?" "You are a booby," said William. "Booby yourself," said Tom. And so the argument began all over again, and went on hotter than ever, until at last they decided to sit on the sacks one by one and squash them, and boil them next time. "Who shall we sit on first?" said the voice. Hi, troll. better sit on the last fellow first, said Bert, whose eye had been damaged by Thorin. He thought Tom was talking. Don't talk to yourself, said Tom. But if he wants to sit on the last one, sit on him. Which is he? I am. Okay. So let's jump. Oh yeah, that's right. My bad. Potato. Potato. Yes. Potato. Woo! Another potato. Oh, that sounds nice. Leo, you have to type drop. Woohoo! Okay, let's see. Oh, don't worry, I made the mistake as well. It's been too long. So Earthling is the last hope of landing. Can he do it? Yes, he did it. So Earthling gets an Easter egg for the bush, from the bush. Woohoo!
Can you not do that? You'll blunt them. Ooh, do you hear that, lads? He says we'll blunt the knives.
Blunt the knives, bend the forks,
Smash the bottles and burn the corks.
chip the glasses and crack the plates. That's what Bilbo Baggins hates. Cut the cloth, twiddle the hat, leave the holes on the bedroom mat, pour the milk on the pantry floor. Splash the wine on every door, dunk across the boiling bowl, crown them up with a talking bowl. When you're finished, they fill your hole. Send them down the hall to roll. That's what Bilbo Baggins hates.
He's here.
Sure. Okay. Oh my god. You have too many points, troll. You seriously have too many points. Okay, so should we do something about this? Or like okay, so how many times was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Okay, so the troll just spent 4,000 points on me laughing. Oh, love's sake. If you say so. Earthling? No. Huh? Seems like it doesn't work. Earthling, can you please pause the TTS redeem? I have no idea why it's not working. And please refund the points to Miss Deathar for the TTS. Thank you. I have no idea why it didn't work. That's weird. I'll probably remember to fix it someday. Yeah, I agree. Chicken soup sounds better than cheeseburger soup. Oh, you mean koldskål? For some reason, my stomach do not like it. I've no clue why, though. Maybe I've had it too much. Okay. Did you pause to redeem? Earthling, did you pause to redeem? I need the redeem to be paused as well. Yeah, please pause it. You go into mod view and then you choose the things on the left side. Where it's the same place where you refund the points. There's a little button which says pause. Thank you. Because I have no clue how to find it in here. Oh, there we were. I found it. Thank you. Okay. Where were we? The one with the yellow stockings, said Bert. Nonsense, the one with the grey stockings, said a voice like William's. I made sure it was yellow, said Bert. Yellow it was, said William. Then what did you say it was grey for, said Bert. I never did. Tom said it. That I never did, said Tom. It was you. 2-1. So shut your mouth, said Bert. Who are you talking to, said William. Now stop it, said Tom and Bert together. The night's getting on, and dawn comes early. Let's get on with it. Dawn take you all, and be stoned to you, said a voice that sounded like William's. But it wasn't. For at that moment, the light came over the hill, and there was a mighty twitter in the branches. William never spoke, for he stood turned to stone as he stooped, and Bert and Tom were stuck like rocks as they looked at him. And there they stand to this day, all alone, unless the birds perch on them. But trolls, as you probably know, must be underground before dawn, or they go back to the stuff of the mountains that they are made of, and never move again. That is what had happened to Bert and Tom and William. Excellent, said Gandalf, as he stepped from behind a tree and helped Bilbo to climb down over a thorn bush. Then Bilbo understood. It was the wizard's voice that had kept the trolls bickering and quarreling until the light came and made an end of them. The next thing was to untie the sacks and let out the dwarves. They were nearly suffocated and very annoyed. They had not at all enjoyed lying there listening to the trolls making plans for roasting them and squashing them and mincing them. They had to hear Bilbo's account of what had happened to him twice over before they were satisfied. Silly time to go practicing pinching and pocket picking, said Bumper, when what we wanted was fire and food, and that's just what you wouldn't have got of those fellows without a struggle in any case, said Gandalf. Anyhow, you're wasting time now. Don't you realize that the trolls must have a cave or a hole dug somewhere near to hide from the sun in? We must look into it. They searched about and soon found the marks of trolls' stony boots going away through the trees. They followed the tracks up the hill until, hidden by bushes, they came on a big door of stone leading to a cave. But they could not open it, not through though they all pushed while Gandalf tried various incantations. Would this be any good? Asked Bilbo, when they were getting tired and angry. I found it on the ground where the trolls had a fight. He held out a largish key, though no doubt William had thought it very small and secret. It must have fallen out of his pocket, very luckily before he was turned to stone. Why on earth Didn't you mention it before? They cried. Gandalf grabbed it and fitted it into the keyhole. Then the stone door swung back with one big push, and they all went inside. There were bones on the floor, and a nasty smell was in the air. But there was a good deal of food, jumbled carelessly on shelves and on the ground, among the untidy litter of plunder, of all sorts, from brass buttons to pots full of gold coins standing in a corner. There were lots of clothes, two hanging on the walls, too small for trolls. I'm afraid they belonged to victims, and among them were several swords of various shapes, makes, shapes and sizes. Two caught their eyes particularly because of the beautiful scabbards and jeweled hilts. Gandalf and Thorin each took one of these, and Bilbo took a knife in a leather sheath. It would have made only a tiny pocket knife for a troll, but it was as good as a short sword for the Hobbit. These look like good blades, said the wizard, half drawing them and looking at them curiously. They were not made by any troll, nor by any smith among men in these parts and days, but when we can read the runes on them, we shall know more about them. Let's get out of this horrible smell, said Fili. So they carried out the pots of coins, and such food as was untouched and looked fit to eat, also one barrel of ale, which was still full. By that time, they felt like breakfast, and being very hungry, they did not turn their noses up at what they had got from the troll's larder. Their own provisions were very scanty. Now they had bread and cheese, and plenty of ale and bacon to toast in the embers of the fire. After that they slept, for the night had been disturbed, and they did nothing more till the afternoon. Then they brought up their ponies and carried away the pots of gold, and buried them very secretly not far from the track by the river, putting a great many spells over them, just in case. Just in case they ever had the chance to come back and recover them. When that was done, they all mounted once more and jogged along again on the path towards the east. Where did you go to, if I may ask? Said Thorin to Gandalf as they rode along. Where did... to look ahead, said he. And what brought you back in the nick of time? Looking behind, said he. Exactly, said Thorin, but could be more plain. I went on to spy out our road. It will soon become dangerous and difficult. Also, I was anxious about replenishing our small stock of provisions. I had not gone very far. However, I met a couple of friends of mine from Rivendell. Where's that? Asked Bilbo. Don't interrupt, said Gandalf. We will get there in a few days now, if we are lucky, and find out all about it. As I was saying, I met two of Elrond's people. They were hurrying along for fear of the trolls. It was they who told me that 3 of them had come down from the mountains and settled in the wood not far from the road. They had frightened everyone away from the district, and they waylaid strangers. I immediately had a feeling that I was wanted back. Looking behind, I saw a fire in the distance and made for it. So now you know. Please be more careful next time, or we shall never get anywhere. Thank you, said Thorin. I think we will stop here for today. Because I am beginning to feel a little bit tired. So let's see. Where can we go? Thank you, Crow. Appreciate it. I think I know where we're going. Here. Oh, you're very welcome. And thank you to all of you as well. Because without you, I wouldn't be here. Okay, so we are raiding now, and we are gonna go say hi to Flex with T-Rex. So grab your raid message and come with me over to Flex with T-Rex to say hi. And I will see you all next Sunday, where we are gonna read the next chapter of The Hobbit. And please take care of yourself until next time. See ya!